Under my short video, a girl tagged her boyfriend to watch it. Everyone move aside. My husband loves this kind of content. Let him watch first. When I clicked on her profile picture, I froze. She was the girl who had bullied me in high school. I'd recognize that face, even if it were reduced to ashes. I stayed up all night, scrolling through every one of her videos, then clicked on the boyfriend she had tagged and sent him a private message. You there? Before seeing Grace go again, I had imagined countless times what she might be like now. I thought bad people always got their comeuppance, that she must be living in misery, destitute and broken. But no, in her posts, today she was at White Horse Manor in the Maldives, staying at a hotel that cost tens of thousands a night. Tomorrow she was flying to Iceland to see the Northern Lights. The day after, she was speeding along the west coast in a sports car at sunset. Her most recent photo showed her sitting in a black Rolls-Royce, dressed in Chanel, grinning boldly at the camera, not a trace of sorrow on her face. She looked like she was living the dream. But how? I stared at her smiling face on my phone screen until, slowly, it morphed back into her high school self, grinning as she slapped me over and over until her hand hurt and she let the next person take over, all while she giggled and filmed my swollen, bleeding face. Smile for me, Lily Chen. Weren't you always the flirtatious one? What's wrong, cat got your tongue? She yanked my hair violently, her smile stretching wider. Smile, Grace Goo's malice toward me began when the boy she liked gave me a birthday present. On my birthday, he gifted me a designer bag, something his mother had brought back from Hong Kong worth over 30 grand. I was so shocked I refused to accept it, but he threw it at me angrily, saying he'd trash it if I didn't take it. As I stood there clutching the bag in confusion, Grace walked in. She snatched it from my hands, examined it briefly, then suddenly laughed, though her smile was so distorted it sent chills down my spine. I've been begging him for this bag for 3 months, she said. Turns out he was saving it for you. She looked up at me with an expression that made my hair stand on end. You've got skills, Lily Chen. After that day, Grace made me her personal target. My greatest fear became the school bell's chime, never knowing when she'd corner me in the restroom with her gang for another round of beatings and humiliation. During those months, I lived in constant terror, haunted by nightmares every night, yet dared tell no one. My parents had divorced when I was young, both remarried with new families. Only my disabled grandma was willing to take me in. She ran a small deli shop, rising before dawn and working past midnight selling marinated meats to pay my school fees. I was one of the few students at this private school admitted on a full scholarship for academic excellence. I didn't dare tell the teachers. Grace, who had threatened my grandmother, and I knew the school would turn a blind eye to someone like her with powerful connections. All I could do was study harder, clinging to the hope of passing the entrance exams and escaping this place. But even that small hope was ultimately denied to me. The night before the college entrance exams, Grace locked me in the bathroom again, this time having others strip me and take photos. Trapped there all night, I didn't know those images were already circulating in local chat groups by dawn, nor did I know Grace had deliberately sent someone to show them to my grandmother at her shop. Frantic with worry, when I didn't return, my grandmother limped through the streets on her bad leg, searching the school for me. In her haste crossing the road, she failed to notice the drowsy driving truck that hit her, gone instantly under its wheels. I only learned the news the next morning when the janitor finally released me. Stars exploded behind my eyes as I collapsed, my mind void of all thought. When I came to, I was in the hospital. In a single day, I'd lost both my chance to change destiny through the exams and the grandmother who'd been my whole world. I can scarcely recall anything about what happened afterward that day. Perhaps the pain was so unbearable that my mind activated its self-preservation mechanism, sealing away those memories. The only thing I remember is my teacher visiting me and hearing her say, regretfully, to someone in the hallway, she was Tsinghua and Peking University material. What a terrible shame. Grace Gu walked away unscathed, merely receiving a reprimand in the principal's office because her father was a prominent local entrepreneur, a major taxpayer, someone even the principal didn't dare offend. I used the last of my family's savings to arrange Grandma's funeral. With no money to retake the college entrance exams, I had no choice but to find work at a factory to support myself. Meanwhile, Grace Gu was sent off to the USA for university, where she began her glamorous new life. I sat on my bed, the bedroom unlit, staring blankly at the pitch-black ceiling. During the hardest years, I often zoned out like this. Life did get better eventually. After saving up from work, I earned an adult degree, then scraped together enough to open my own online boutique. I modeled the women's clothing myself. Fortunately, I had the looks for it, and timing the market boom just right, the business quickly grew. Now, I've even achieved financial independence. I thought I'd forgotten the past. I thought I could start anew. But the moment I saw Grace Gu's face again, I suddenly understood. I'd never let go. I hated her. Desperately, I sat there until dawn, my stiff fingers finally tapping open the account she had tagged. It was a male profile picture composed of just a few minimalist lines, without a single video posted. Yet I quickly discovered his identity nonetheless. Ethan Sheen, Grace Gu's fiancé. The Gu family nearly went bankrupt during her college years, only to be revived through this strategic marriage, the Cheens being the financial lifeline they clung to. This union is also what guarantees Grace's current life of privilege. Grace no longer recognizes me. The irony. She, who once pushed me into hell herself, whose smiling face haunts every nightmare of mine, has forgotten me completely. She even tagged Ethan in my comment section. I clicked the message icon beside Ethan's profile picture, hesitated, then sent him a private note. You there? 3 days later, I opened Ethan's chat window for what felt like the 100th time. Still no reply. I wasn't particularly surprised. From what I'd gathered these past days, Ethan maintained remarkable discretion in romantic matters. Grace's tag was likely just casual teasing. She knew he wouldn't bite. Oddly enough, here was the Cheen heir, standing at least 6 feet 2 inches, judging by videos and photos, blessed with leading man looks courtesy of his actress mother. Yet his passion wasn't chasing women or flaunting wealth. This textbook Prince Charming's favorite pastime? Fishing. Yes, fishing. Like some retiree, setting up rods by lakes or piers, whiling whole days away. Online DMs clearly weren't working. After scouring every available detail about him, even stalking him outside his office, I'd learned Ethan Sheen lived a clockwork routine, shuttling between home and work, with one weekly exception, his sacred fishing day. Timing my move to his commute hours, I tailed his car. At a red light, I swerved behind him and, crash, deliberately rear-ended his vehicle. The impact jolted us both. His brake lights flared as his car halted abruptly. Ethan emerged in his tailored suit, his brow furrowed as he rapped on my window. I smoothed my hair, stealing a glance in the rearview mirror. The 5-figure makeup artist I'd hired had delivered, every lash flawless, the artistry undetectable, just as planned. Ethan's stern expression softened slightly when I opened the door. Grace Gu must have known Ethan favor my type. Why else would she tag him? He might not chase after a pretty face, but at least he wouldn't recoil from one. Tilting my head at that perfect 45-degree angle, I feigned flustered contrition. I'm so sorry. I just got my license and panicked. Are you okay? Ethan shook his head, inspecting the bumper. Minor damage. Let's clear the road and handle this through insurance. Nodding, we waited roadside for the adjuster. When formalities ended, I smoothly opened my phone's QR code and extended it toward him. Let's exchange WeChat. We can contact each other if anything comes up. My demeanor was so natural that it left him no room for refusal. After a brief pause, Ethan Sheen took out his phone and scanned my QR code. I'm really sorry about today. Let me treat you to dinner sometime. I looked up at him. No need. The insurance claim is settled anyway. Just message me on WeChat if anything comes up. As I'd anticipated, he declined politely before getting into his car and driving away. I watched his car merge into traffic, gripping my phone as a faint smile curled at the corners of my lips. Today's objective had been achieved. I hadn't expected to bridge the distance with Ethan Sheen so quickly. Just obtaining his contact information was a victory in itself. I've always been drawn to challenging prey. If he took the bait too easily, where would be the fun in that? I combed through all of Grace Goo's social media accounts. She seemed genuinely infatuated with Ethan. 9 out of 10 posts were about him. Her obsession blazed across every update like neon signage. The Goo family had been declining for years. Without the Sheen family's financial injections, they'd have gone bankrupt long ago. Grace Goo. I wondered how comfortably she'd live without Ethan Sheen propping up her world. If karma wouldn't deliver her comeuppance, I'd orchestrate it myself. I spent the night dissecting Ethan's WeChat moments. His life appeared remarkably uncomplicated. Almost no personal posts, except for the occasional fishing trophy proudly displayed. I resisted messaging him directly. Instead, days later, I posted a single carefully selected photo to my own moments. Ripples danced across the dark pool as I held up a hefty silver carp, offering the camera a tight-lipped smile. Another day without an empty creel. A week passed without Ethan Sheen's like or comment. But his social feed stayed equally barren. Clearly, he'd struck out fishing too. The second week, I posted again. Same silver carp, same shadowy pool, though this catch had bulked up to 4 or 5 pounds. Fish on, still no response. Week 3's post went up. Endless bites. Honestly overwhelming. Then I slapped on a face mask and turned in. Dawn revealed my phone's screen crowded with likes. And there, finally, was the avatar I'd been waiting for. Ethan's comment read, "Coordinates." I smirked at the glowing text. Hook set. When we next met, Ethan's reticence had dissolved. That honey hole really produces like you said? My gaze traced his black hoodie and sweatpants, his ungelled hair falling carelessly across his forehead. His eyes sparkled now, pupils dilated with interest. None of the frosty financier from magazine spreads remained. Just a college kid's eager intensity. I nodded. You'll understand when we get there. I've never left empty-handed after coming here so many times. Truth be told, I didn't know the first thing about fishing. I'd crammed like mad these past days purely to reel in Ethan Sheen. This particular fishing spot was something I discovered after interrogating countless people and scouring these hills daily. When Ethan first commented, I ignored him. Only after posting another Puchen the next day did I leisurely reply. Up in the mountains. Quite hard to find. This time he responded instantly. Could I trouble you to take me along next time? Thanks. I set down my phone for dinner, waiting until he must have been growing impatient before responding with a single, "Sure." Ethan and I cast our lines several meters apart. He didn't initiate conversation, and I wasn't about to force warmth where none existed. Occasionally, we'd glance over when the other got a bite. I could tell he was itching to inspect whenever I landed a fish, but too embarrassed to show interest. His gaze just kept sweeping past with feigned nonchalance. From Grace Goo's Weibo posts, I'd learned Ethan was exactly this type of aloof person. Things that didn't interest him didn't even warrant polite pretense. Probably born with a silver spoon and blessed with exceptional advantages, he'd rarely encountered situations requiring him to ingratiate himself. Being the center of attention was simply his default state. All these years, he likely hadn't lacked for social butterflies throwing themselves at him. If I came on too strong, I'd just become another insignificant woman in his eyes. After actively bringing Ethan Sheen here once, I stopped contacting him, but having figured out his schedule, I staked out the spot daily to ensure we'd coincidentally meet at least once a week. Yet waiting for fish proved too dull. After our third encounter, he finally struck up a conversation. How'd you find this fishing spot? I've tried nearly every fishery and angling spot nearby. Nothing special. Found this place while hiking once. Gave it a shot, and surprisingly, it delivered. Ethan visibly perked up when fishing became the topic. In his excitement, he showed me footage of catfishing in the Amazon River. I marveled, then reciprocated with photos of my deep-sea tuna catches. His eyes lit up before dimming slightly. I've always wanted to tuna fish, just never found the time. He looked up, meeting my gaze properly for the first time. Didn't expect you to be this into fishing. Women anglers are rare. Our conversation branched into sports, music preferences, films, and books, until he realized with surprise how many interests we shared. We both loved skiing. Yukio Mishima is the sailor who fell from grace with the sea, and Koji Tamaki's music, where our tastes diverged. We respected each other's choices. Only when darkness fell did we notice. We talked the entire afternoon away. After that, we often went fishing together and chatted. We even adopted a little stray cat together, a yellow kitten just a few months old. Every time we came to fish, it would obediently curl up beside us, waiting for fish. Sometimes, if neither of us caught anything, it would meow impatiently, urging us on. I named it Nyen Nyen, symbolizing abundance year after year, and would shower it with kisses and cuddles each visit. Ethan Sheen wasn't as fond of it. Whenever Nyen Nyen rubbed against him, he'd sidestep away. He was a bit of a neat freak, disliking how cat hair clung to his clothes. That evening, as we said goodbye, Ethan Sheen asked me for the first time, "When are you coming next?" I thought for a moment. Work's been hectic lately. Hard to say. A flicker of disappointment, barely noticeable, passed through his eyes, but he nodded politely and said nothing more. I didn't return for a whole week. It wasn't until the second week that I finally showed up. When he saw me again, Ethan Sheen's expression gave nothing away, but he quickly scooted his chair closer to mine. "What have you been up to these days? Why no fishing?" I walked over and stroked Nyen Nyen, who was sprawled on the ground stretching lazily. Its belly was rounder now, its coat glossy, clearly well cared for. "Have you been feeding it this whole time?" Ethan Sheen lifted his chin slightly, his tone laced with reproach. "You were the one who insisted on naming it, yet these days you've completely neglected it." Soon, a hint of pride surfaced in his expression. "Of course I'm the one taking care of it. I fish for it every single day." Nyen Nyen trotted over and rubbed against Ethan Sheen's leg. He frowned with performative annoyance. "Must you always do this? You leave fur all over me every time." Yet his hands moved with practiced ease as he scooped the cat onto his lap. Nyen Nyen settled contentedly against him, immediately coating his black jacket in pale fur. Ethan didn't seem to mind, instead expertly scratching under the cat's chin. Watching from the side, I reached a private conclusion. So he's a textbook tsundere. Smirking to myself, I sat nearby to prepare the fishing rod, then gasped as the hook snagged my finger. A crimson bead of blood welled up when I squeezed the wound. Ethan immediately set Nyen Nyen down, retrieving a Band-Aid from a nearby box as he strode over with knitted brows. "Must you always be this careless?" When I reached for the Band-Aid, he instead commanded with unconscious familiarity, "Give me your hand." "You're surprisingly prepared." My teasing words died in my throat when I looked up and met his gaze. Too close. Somehow, without realizing, we drifted into dangerous proximity. The tangerine sunset between the mountains gradually tinged with blue and dimmed. The wind, trapped in the valley, carried damp moisture in the air. I could catch faint whiffs of Ethan Sheen's woody scent. Sometimes there, sometimes gone. Whether it was cologne or aftershave, I couldn't tell. His irises were lighter than most people's, carrying an almost inorganic chill and clarity. Yet now they were filled with nothing but my reflection. The wind blew my hair across his face. He just stared at me, dazed, until Nyen Nyen let out an impatient yap from the side. We both snapped out of it at the same time, abruptly stepping back. Ethan quickly turned away, crouching to stroke Nyen Nyen's back. "Let's fish. You're getting fed right now." I burst out laughing. In the dim light, his ears turned an imperceptible shade of red as he sat down to fish, falling silent. But Ethan, usually so patient, fidgeted all evening, not a single bite the whole night. From that day on, an unspoken understanding seemed to form between us. Whenever he went fishing, he'd always call me along. We went out at least twice a week. Sometimes it was deep in deserted mountains, other times on the boundless sea, or at the private fishery he'd rented. But every time, it was just the two of us. During this time, I kept tabs on Grace Guzwibo. Her posts flaunting her relationship grew fewer and fewer, until eventually, days passed without a single update. I watched coldly, then met her boyfriend the next day, with my best demeanor and most exquisite makeup. This mutual understanding veiled in deliberate pretense fermented for 2 months until I sensed the timing was right. That evening, as he held Nyen Nyen, I suddenly asked, "Ethan, do you have a girlfriend?" Grace posted on Weibo again, only this time, instead of flaunting Ethan, it read, "Do some people just live to covet others' men? Don't let me find out who you are." Leaning against the window, I exhaled smoke and curled my lips. Seems they fought. Grace and Ethan's relationship always seemed one-sided. Her chasing. From Ethan's study abroad blog to his current social media, not one post ever mentioned Grace. What was already a relationship sustained by one now had me in the mix, finally teetering on collapse. Ethan didn't answer my question today, but we both understood what his silence meant. Neither of us spoke another word that day, packing up our gear hastily to leave. Yet I knew the calm on Ethan's face couldn't mirror the storm inside, but whether this would unfold for better or worse, I couldn't predict. He might feel little for Grace, yet the Chin and Gu families' long-standing business ties made their marriage alliance no trivial matter. Perhaps he's drawn to me now, but how deep could that attraction truly run? Could anything ever compare to his career? Sure enough, Ethan Chin texted me that very day. "I won't be coming fishing anymore. Sorry for disturbing you these past weeks." True to his word, he never showed up at the fishing spots again. I visited every angling spot daily, but it was as if he was avoiding me. He never reappeared. Nyen was gone too. I wanted to adopt her, but after scouring the neighborhood, I never found her again, except his profile picture had changed to an orange tabby yawning on a carpet. I zoomed in for a closer look. It was Nyen. 2 weeks later, I posted a fishing photo with another man on social media. The guy was 6 feet 1 inch, honey-skinned, with bulging pecs straining against a black tank top, one arm slung over my shoulder as he grinned. A male model I'd hired. $2,000 for the day. Fishing is about technique. You'll never get a bite just by dumping bait. The next day at the pond, a shadow suddenly fell across my spot. I looked up to see Ethan Chin wordlessly setting up his rod beside me, his face unreadable as he cast his line, except he hadn't even baited the hook. We sat in silence until finally he spoke, his tone carefully neutral. "Who was that guy yesterday?" I kept my voice flat. "You have a girlfriend now. Why should it matter?" He didn't reply. For the next half hour, I kept reeling in fish, while Ethan Chin caught nothing. He didn't even seem to notice his hook was bare, sitting there with oppressive silence, lost in thought. When I stood up, my numb legs buckled from sitting too long. As I stumbled, Ethan instinctively rose to catch me. The moment our eyes met, he suddenly gripped the nape of my neck and kissed me. A thoroughly unromantic setting, just 2 mediocre anglers, the fish beneath the water, and a kiss devoid of romance. Less a kiss than a battle. His force carried vindictive ferocity, refusing to yield. I clasped his neck and rose on my toes. Time dissolved until, just as oxygen deprivation threatened to darken my vision, he released me, gasping. I looked up at him. "Ethan, I won't be the other woman." His eyelids flushed crimson. Several heartbeats passed before his breathing steadied. "I know. I won't make excuses, but you should understand. She's a family arrangement. There's no real feeling there. I'll end it properly. Just give me time." That night, I reopened Grace Gu's Weibo page. She'd posted nothing. The account lay silent. Yet I knew she couldn't possibly be okay. Sure enough, deep into the night, she unleashed a torrent of distraught posts. The final entry held just a few words. "Just wait. I won't let this go so easily." Before receiving Ethan Chin's explanation, Grace Gu came to me first. She'd somehow gotten hold of my contact information and asked to meet at a cafe. When I saw Grace Gu again, she was still impeccably dressed, wearing a Max Mara coat, a fully diamond-paved Cartier bracelet on her wrist, her winged eyeliner sharp as her piercing stare fixed on me, though the dark circles under her eyes betrayed her, despite obvious efforts to conceal them. After sizing me up, she scoffed. "Women like you are a dime a dozen. Name your price to leave him." I flicked a loose wave over my shoulder. She still didn't recognize me. Not that it surprised me. After that incident years ago, I changed my name, had my inner double eyelids reshaped into tapered ones, and could now afford better things. No longer the shabby girl she once knew. Of course, she wouldn't remember. Victims never forget their tormentors' faces, while tormentors rarely spare theirs a second glance. I took a sip of tea and smiled. Miss Goo, was it? I've heard about you. Ethan told me yours is just a marriage of convenience, that he feels nothing for you. As expected, the words struck a nerve. Grace's expression darkened. Do you really enjoy playing the homewrecker so much? My smile remained unchanged as I met her gaze. Perhaps the one who isn't loved is the real homewrecker, don't you think? Miss Goo. Grace Goo flew into a rage, grabbing the cup from the table and pouring its scalding coffee over my head. The searing pain sent me reeling, just like the boiling water she'd once doused me with. All eyes turned toward us. Yet Grace remained utterly indifferent to the onlookers, yanking my hair as she raised her hand to strike me. I could already anticipate the force behind that slap. After all, such blows had punctuated my entire high school years. But this time, I caught her wrist midair, and, with her stunned expression as my reward, I struck her cheek with all my might. How dare you hit me? Perhaps experiencing physical violence for the first time in her privileged life. Grace froze momentarily before the fury set in, as I backhanded her other cheek with another resounding crack. She clutched her face in disbelief. What if I did hit you? Leaning forward on the table with a radiant smile, my eyes glittered with vindication. I'll do more than strike you. I'll steal you, man, too. What can you possibly do about it? Grace nearly lost all composure, swinging at me wildly, only for her arm to be intercepted midair by a sudden grip. She whirled around. Through tear-blurred vision, I saw Ethan Sheen standing behind her, and bit my lower lip. I'd never seen Ethan Sheen so furious before. His eyes blazed with barely contained rage. Didn't I tell you none of this concerns her? That you shouldn't come looking for her? How dare you say that doesn't concern her? Ethan's fury became the final straw that shattered Grace Goo's composure. She screamed hysterically. If it weren't for this slut seducing you, you'd never have called off our engagement. Ethan, we've been together for years. You've known her mere months. Do our 10 years mean less than your 2 months with her? Time has nothing to do with it, Ethan said coldly. We both know our engagement was always just a business arrangement. I never had feelings for you, but I loved you, Grace sobbed, lunging at me with clawed hands. The veins on her flushed temples throbbed violently. Her once meticulously made-up face, now a tear-streaked ruin. All dignity abandoned. This is all your fault. You fucking bitch. I'll kill you. Accustomed to getting her way, she couldn't even feign restraint now. I stumbled backward, tears clinging precariously to my carefully applied false lashes. Ethan finally snapped, wrenching Grace away. Enough of this madness. Grace collapsed against the table, staring at him with heartbroken disbelief. Her voice cracked with anguish. How could you do this to me, Ethan? You're utterly heartless. Ignoring her near breakdown, Ethan Sheen rushed over and gripped my shoulders, scrutinizing me anxiously. Are you all right? Did she do anything to you? I shook my head and buried my face against his chest in feigned distress. Where he couldn't see, I arched an eyebrow at Grace Goo and curled my lips triumphantly. Grace ground her teeth in fury. Ethan, the Sheen family will never allow you to break off the engagement. Ethan kept his arm around me as he regarded Grace, his tone detached. I hold all the company shares. I don't need anyone's permission. Grace Goo, let me make this clear one last time. Zhao Zhao has nothing to do with this. I'm the one who fell for her. I pursued her. If I ever catch you harassing her again, you know exactly what I'm capable of. Grace's face paled. Her mascara had smudged into grotesque streaks from crying. Biting her lip hard, she spun around and fled through the doors in humiliated tears. As Ethan murmured comforts, I smiled against his chest and slipped my phone into my pocket. I texted him the moment Grace showed up. I just hadn't expected him to arrive so promptly. How ruthlessly cruel men become when they no longer love someone. Not that I minded. These days with Ethan Sheen brought me happiness beyond anything I'd imagined. Some of those so-called share interests were discovered through stalking his early blog posts. but others genuinely mirrored my own preferences. We shared similar, yet not identical tastes in many things. Being with him was both comfortable and never dull. We went skiing together in the Alps, embracing at the foot of snow-capped mountains. We rode hot air balloons in Tanzania, kissing under the most breathtaking sunset on the horizon. I even genuinely grew to love fishing. He took annual leave to go deep-sea tuna fishing with me. When I struggled to reel in my catch, he rushed to help, and we tumbled over each other in chaos, watching the escaped fish slap the water before collapsing into laughter. At night, we'd stroll through supermarkets hand in hand. To my surprise, though he looked like some pampered young master who'd never lifted a finger, he turned out to be an exceptional cook. My signature Spanish seafood paella. Try it. Ethan Sheen, wearing the gray loungewear I'd bought him, proudly removed his oven mitts and crouched to peel pre-boiled shrimp for Nyen Nyen, grumbling all the while. Won't eat unless it's hand-fed. Since when did you get so spoiled during your stray days? Nyen Nyen brushed against his hand with her bushy tail raised, and his stern act crumbled into laughter. Black strands of hair fell over his pale, handsome forehead, his eyes tender, under the amber glow of the lights. The scene of man and cat froze me in place. That night, after Ethan Sheen fell asleep, I didn't sneak into his study as usual. Ethan kept no defenses against me. All his company's sensitive documents were stored at home, and I knew his computer password by heart. For days, I'd been combing through the Gu family's records. The Sheens and Gus had been business partners for years. I refused to believe he held no leverage over them. Just as I suspected, I'd already uncovered traces of the Gus tax evasion and even caught wind of their illegal offshore asset transfers, though concrete evidence still eluded me. But today, hesitation crept in. Ethan was genuinely good to me. With the Sheen and Gu families so deeply intertwined, bringing down the Gus would inevitably drag the Sheens down too. I realized I was faltering. I'd always told myself I was just using Ethan, that there was no real affection. Yet, after all this time together, I could no longer distinguish pretense from truth. He was everything one could want, a man whose love was as undeniable as his integrity. Once certain of his feelings, he hadn't strung me along for the sake of the Gu alliance. He confronted Grace Gu directly, shielding me even in her presence. Falling for him had been dangerously effortless. I knew exposing the Gus would destroy us irreparably. A man of Ethan's pride would never forgive deception. But could I really watch Grace Gu sail through life unscathed? Without Ethan, she'd still have the Gu Empire. She'd never know suffering. I lay staring at the ceiling until dawn, sleepless. As dawn's first light crept through the heavy curtains, a sunbeam fell across my eyelids. I squinted as Ethan stirred beside me, wrapping his arms around me from behind with sleep-thickened voice. Morning, wifey. Then he absently petted Nyen Nyen, sleeping atop his head. Morning to you too. Nyen Nyen yawned extravagantly, stretching her limbs until her toe beans splayed like blooming flowers. After a long silence, I finally spoke. Ethan, what would you say is the one thing you couldn't stand about us being together? Still refusing to open his eyes, Ethan answered with sleep-roughened voice. Couldn't stand you lying to me, I guess. When the doorbell rang, I thought it was Ethan returning. Cradling Nyen Nyen, I laughed while opening the door. Your daughter's been extra clingy today, pestering me for freeze-dried treats. My words died. Grace Gu stood at the threshold, her arm linked through Ethan's. Ethan disentangled himself, his gaze locking onto mine with unfamiliar iciness where warmth used to dwell. My heart plummeted. Unconsciously, my grip tightened. Nyen Nyen yowled in protest and leapt from my arms. Lily Chen, or should I say, Lian? Grace waved a dossier bearing what appeared to be my photograph. I knew there was something familiar about you. Her lips curled downward in a sneer of contempt. So you've been seducing men since childhood. Being a slut comes naturally to you. She grabbed Ethan Sheen's forearm. I told you she's just using you. This is all about getting back at me. Ethan stared into my eyes. As dusk fell, his face remained shadowed. Only the blurred outline of his silhouette visible against the fading light. I had someone investigate. My computer was tampered with. His voice was flat. Files in the study were accessed to. You claim to love Yukio Mishima's books and skiing, things I posted about in college. I asked the fishing lodge owner, "You'd never been there before these last few months. Li Zhao, tell me, is this all coincidence?" At that moment, I knew words were pointless. I studied him for a long moment before twisting my lips into a self-deprecating smile. I knew you'd find out eventually, just not this soon. Ethan Sheen, none of this was accidental. I targeted you to hurt Grey Skoo, but fair's fair. You've uncovered me, so I've got nothing left to say. Grey Skoo's crimson lips arched. Li Zhao, trash stays trash. Time won't change that. She strode over and patted my cheek. You expected karma? People like you aren't even human, just oxygen thieves. Be grateful I let you be useful as my plaything. That's more than you deserve. Want revenge? She leaned in, her triumphant whisper hot against my ear. Maybe in your next life. We'd only lived together for 2 months, yet my belongings had inexplicably multiplied throughout the apartment. The summer sandals Ethan Sheen bought me, the plush winter slippers he'd prepared in advance, those ridiculous matching pairs, one white and one gray, nestled together like lovers. The powder blue couple's mugs with that tacky heart design I'd mocked, now reduced to a lonely, fractured half when I took one away. The bathrobes hanging side by side, pillows that still bore the indentations of our heads. The shared throw blanket crumpled on the coffee table. Standing in the living room, I was ambushed by an indescribable ache in my chest. It was all supposed to be pretend. How had I let myself believe otherwise? I shut my eyes briefly before hauling 2 oversized suitcases toward the door. As I brushed past Ethan Sheen, he suddenly spoke, his question nonsensical. Does it hurt? What if it does? I replied icily. Would you actually care? Silence. I swiped at my eyes and pushed through the door. The wheels of my luggage clattered aimlessly behind me as I walked. No destination in mind, just static filling my skull. When moisture stung my eyes, I looked up bewildered, only then realizing the rain had begun falling unnoticed. Pedestrians began running through the streets as dusk cast its dim light. The taillights of passing cars painting crimson ripples across rain-puddled asphalt. I remained standing in the rain until, after what felt like ages, I slowly crouched down and wrapped my arms around myself. No vengeance achieved, just another piece of my heart squandered. Truly, I'd lost the battle and the war. But when it rains, it pours. Likely from the drenching, I felt ill again, lying feverish in bed, too lethargic to fetch medicine. Perhaps it was the sickness, but a wave of self-loathing surged through me. Everything felt meaningless. Death wouldn't be so bad, I thought calmly. At least then these troubles would end. As I drifted into delirium, my phone suddenly rang. Groping for it weakly, I heard muffled words exchanged, mine and someone else's. But my mind was fogged beyond recollection. Time blurred until the distant creak of a door. I struggled to lift leaden eyelids, my body paralyzed as if weighed down by ghosts. A cool hand pressed against my forehead. Rustling sounds preceded gentle arms raising me, then bitter tablets placed on my tongue as a voice murmured, "Take your medicine." I frowned and swallowed, sipping hot water from the proffered hand before being gently laid back down. In the haze between sleep and wakefulness, I sensed a gaze lingering upon me. Feeling overheated, I kicked off the blanket and exposed my arm. That arm bore many scars. Cigarette burns from Grey Skoo, razor cuts from craft knives, and one particularly deep slash across my wrist. A wound I carved myself after Grandma left. Even after a day and night of emergency treatment, I still couldn't follow her. Left alone in this cold, cruel world. All these years with Ethan Sheen, I'd worn long sleeves, even my pajamas, so he'd never see these marks. That unseen gaze remained fixed on my hand, motionless. After what felt like eternity, trembling fingertips brushed my cheek with unbearable care. I nuzzled into the touch, a tear escaping as I murmured, "Grandma." I hiccuped, curling inward like a wounded child. It hurts so much. The fingers froze as if electrified. Much later, A sigh drifted above me, weary, aching, steeped in sorrow. Something warm and wet fell onto my face, trickling into my hair. When I awoke, night had fallen. I slept through the entire day. I touched my forehead, cool to the touch. The fever had broken. My gaze drifted to the nightstand, where a half-empty glass of water sat, now completely cold. A fever reducer with one pill missing lay beside it. The next day, when I returned home, the house stood hollow and silent. Only a thick dossier remained on the coffee table. I walked over and pulled out the documents inside. Dozens of pages, crammed with evidence of the Gu family's years of illegal activities. I picked up my phone and scrolled to yesterday morning's chat history with my friend. Call Ethan Sheen later. Tell him I sounded off when you reached me, like I was sick. My friend replied instantly, okay. I filed a shrimming gerbal against the Gu family for tax evasion, posting the evidence directly online. Beyond that, there was proof of Grace Gu's father hiring hitmen to eliminate business rivals years ago, and her eldest brother overdosing a date rape victim to death. These were old cases they'd buried with money and connections, leaving the victims without recourse. The scandal erupted online. Multiple hashtags trended in blazing red, millions demanding justice for the crimes in tens of thousands of furious comments. Before the dust could settle, the Gu family's competitors began hiring internet trolls en masse, flooding the web with their crimes, bribery, trade secret theft, illegal competition, and worse. With the Sheen family's backing, no one had dared oppose them before, but now that the Sheens had turned against the Gus, the floodgates opened. Everyone piled on without restraint. I posted a detailed video exposing Grace Gu's bullying. Netizens erupted in fury. That whole family's rotten to the core. Not a decent one among them. Karma's a patient hunter. All their evil deeds are coming home to roost now, aren't they? Standing with you, sis. My bully got theirs too. Hope you find peace soon. Overnight, the Gus became public enemy number one. Grace's parents and eldest brother were detained. Only she escaped. The family had stashed assets overseas years prior. She meant to flee abroad, to resume her spoiled heiress lifestyle, but police cars chased her en route to the airport. Panicked, she accelerated, straight into a bridge pillar. Instant unconsciousness. Doctors saved her, but the crash left her with paralysis. Nothing below her neck would ever move again. When I next saw Grace Gu, she was curled alone in a rented room, unable to afford medical fees. She'd long been kicked out of the hospital. This tiny room was rented by relatives who dumped her here and abandoned her. I stooped through the damp basement entrance. Rain from days earlier still dripped from the black mold-speckled ceiling. A rat, startled by my footsteps, scurried into the foul-smelling sewer, its long tail whipping behind it. Grace Gu lay twisted on the bare bed frame, her face contorting when she saw me. She struggled to move but remained paralyzed. A putrid stench rose from beneath her. Squinting, I saw her flesh had rotted. Feces clung to festering bed sores in a grotesque tableau. When I first learned Grace Gu had survived, I'd felt a twinge of pity. Now, not a shred remained. This was perfect. I took my time savoring her misery. She deserved this existence, this agonizing, hopeless half-life, paying penance for her sins. Remarkably, Grace clung to sanity despite everything. Gnashing her teeth, she fixed me with a stare so venomous I nearly recoiled. Had she been able to rise, I swear, she'd have torn my throat out with her teeth. Grace Gu, I loomed over her. Do you regret it now? Regret? Grace Gu curled her lips into a strange, mocking smile, her eyes boring into me. My only regret is not having killed you when I had the chance. Lily Chen, you wretched bitch. You were born trash, born low. Your miserable fate has nothing to do with me. Why should I regret anything? Oh, then it seems your fate isn't much better either. I laughed, leaning closer to whisper, I'll be taking your man off your hands then. Don't worry, I'll treat him well and live happily ever after in your stead. Grace froze for a heartbeat before howling like a mortally wounded beast. Her voice soon turned hoarse, her ragged breath scraping like nails on a chalkboard. Lily Chen, I hope you die screaming. You fucking whore. You deserve to die. Lily, I turned and walked out. Even now, Grace refuses to acknowledge her wrongdoing, but it doesn't matter. I don't need her repentance, because I'll never forgive her. Do gods exist in this world? I don't know, but if divine justice won't punish her sins, then I'll deliver the judgment myself. I raised my hand, sunlight filtering through my fingers to warm my face, shutting out the damp darkness behind me. The endless rainy season of my 17th year had finally cleared. The Chin family must have planned to sever ties with the Gu family in advance. While the recent Gu family scandal did affect them somewhat, the impact wasn't substantial. After handing me those documents, Ethan Chin never contacted me again. Just like that, he vanished completely from my life. Our paths never crossed again. It all felt like a dream, and now that I've woken up, not a single trace of him remains in my life. Except for fishing. I developed a habit of fishing, going whenever I had nothing better to do. By the water, my mind would gradually settle, the chaos within me stilling. I still prefer that same pond Ethan Chin and I had visited, only this time, I spotted a familiar silhouette there. Ethan Chin had come too. My heart skipped a traitorous beat. I hesitated, not daring to approach, but he acted as though he hadn't seen me at all. His gaze fixed on the float, motionless, not even sparing me a glance. I pressed my lips together, letting out a quiet, self-deprecating laugh as I sat down at a distance. What was I even hoping for? After how badly I deceived him, the fact that he still helped me get revenge was more than I deserved. Did I really expect him to keep caring for me? The fish weren't biting today, and my thoughts were in turmoil. I'd sat there for hours without a catch and was about to leave, only to stumble when I stood up, my legs numb and unsteady. As I fell, I saw a large rock directly in my path. With a silent lament, I instinctively raised my arms to shield my head, but the anticipated pain never came. Instead, I was caught by warm arms that carried the faint scent of sandalwood. I jerked my head up, only to find myself staring into a pair of amber eyes. I'd rarely cried since Grandma passed away. Tears were meant to summon someone's care, and I knew the last person who'd ever care for me was already gone. All these years, no matter how hard life got, I'd clench my teeth and push through alone. Yet now, against all reason, my vision blurred as an embarrassing sting burned through my nose. Ethan Chin acted as if he hadn't noticed my tears. His voice detached. Li Zhao, using the same trick twice is pathetic. He set me down and turned to leave without another glance. She snatched it from my hands, examined it briefly, then suddenly laughed, though her smile was so distorted it sent chills down my spine. Let go. What the hell are you doing? No. My grip tightened on his collar, eyes red-rimmed as I shouted, Ethan Chin, I have to say this. I only wanted revenge on Grace Gu at first, but later, I genuinely fell for you. I really love you. He glared at me furiously before suddenly wrenching his face away, his tense shoulders deflating like a punctured balloon. For the first time, I heard him swear, damn it, pushing up my sleeve to reveal the scars beneath. I met his gaze with tear-filled eyes. She scalded me with boiling water, stubbed cigarettes out on my skin, took humiliating photos of me, and got my grandmother killed in that hit and run. Ethan Chin, how could I not hate her? I'd already started having doubts later. You don't have to forgive me. You can curse me all you want, but I genuinely loved you. That part was never a lie. The indifference in Ethan Chin's eyes shattered when he saw my scars. His fingers traced the raised marks with featherlight touches before he surrendered with a sigh. Always the same trick. Did you think I didn't know you deliberately got drenched to fake a fever that day? You little liar. You keep fooling me because I'm an easy mark. I cupped his face between my hands and looked up. Then will you let me fool you? The sunset wind rustled through leaves as distant mountain mists parted, revealing a pale white moon. His lips met mine. I surrender. But this time, if you're going to deceive me, make it last a lifetime. A fishing rod nearby bent with a catch, but with no one holding it. The fish soon devoured the bait and escaped. I laughed. It doesn't matter, because I've already hooked the biggest fish of all.